Hello and welcome to EPR with your favorite environmental enthusiasts, Nic and Laura. On today's episode, Laura and I discuss the NatureServe Explorer website. We talk to Lori Scott about changes in GIS over time, NatureServe Explorer, and baking. And finally, speaking of our conversation, here are some fun facts on polar bears. Their skin is actually black. Their fur is translucent and only appears white because it's reflecting light. Kind of cool. And only 2% of their hunts are successful. It's kind of a bummer, but you try catching a seal. So, yeah, there you go. That's polar bears. Other fun facts.
So you're telling me polar bears are invisible?
Pretty much. They cover their noses when they're hunting to like hide the black dot. It's pretty cool.
Oh no, there's a black dot coming after me.
I mean, it's crazy. Like we actually had a project in Alaska that had people that they were like, yeah, we got to have rifles out because if we don't, the polar bears will come after us. And it's just like, what?
Well, there's only 2% chance they'll get you. So
yeah, exactly. That's what now we know that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure their hunts on humans are far more successful. I feel like we do.
Yeah, let's see those stats. That's 2% of their seal hunts are successful.
Right. 100% of their human hunts are successful. Yeah. No, they really are.
90%. Like, someone could get away from them.
Yeah, they are.
Not me.
They're like very scary. They literally hunt anything. They don't care at all. They're just hungry. And so they will come after people. They'll come after whatever. Dogs, doesn't matter. They will eat it and they will hunt you. So like the guys we were talking to, like in their like bunkers, like this is like the Coast Guard. And they were just like, yeah, they meet you at the dock with a rifle. They're like their assault rifles, like the M16s or whatever. And they're like, yeah, they just shoot it off in the air and they'll run away. No big deal. It's like, if you don't have it though,
you'll be lunch.
Yeah. And like one of the guys was telling a story about like he ran outside to grab something like really quickly. Like it was like 2 seconds. He's like, I left like something, like a tool outside, went to grab it, came back in, closed the door, polar bear. And it was just like there. And like they knew they existed, but like he just didn't have any idea that it was literally right outside.
Yeah. Ooh. So black dot.
Yeah. Blended in well. And it's like that.
Now I'm just picturing like the polar bear around the corner covering its nose. Like I'm just waiting.
Now's my chance. Dang. He was only out for 2 seconds. Not fair.
He's the one of those 10% who survived.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Hit that music. Hey everybody, it's that time of year again. Time to start planning for the NAEP Annual Conference and Training Symposium. Get the dates on your calendar, May 5th through 8th in Minneapolis, and we hope to see you there. All right, folks, we do not have a sponsor for today's episode. Oh, wait, but we do. It's just Nic doing something funny. So if you'd like to use this space for your company or your upcoming event, please contact us and we will make that happen. Or you can go to the website at environmentalprofessionalsradio.com and check out the sponsor form. So, all right, Nic, you got 30 seconds to make us giggle with what you got for sale today.
All right. Well, I know many of us, me personally, as someone who doesn't have kids, this doesn't apply to me, right? And this is, I'm sorry to say it, it's only for parents, and very specifically for dads who keep forgetting their kids. So I know it happens all the time. You know, we're all guilty of it. Like, oh yeah, I have 3 children. Now introducing Datarol, right? This is an absolutely revolutionary drug that will not let you forget your kids no matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter where you are. Whenever you take this drug, you'll know exactly where your children are. And I'm telling you right now, revolutionizing this thing, men across the planet will now have no excuse as to why they didn't pick up their kids. So there you go. That's it. Datarol, get it in the stores now. As seen on TV, call now. We'll ship you another shipment, a secondary shipment of Satarol, which is the pressed version of the drug. There you go. How about that?
Datarol.
Could really use it though. I'm telling you, it's
nice play on words today.
Hey, sometimes we got puns.
Let's get to our segment.
NatureServe Explorer is super cool. Like I genuinely wish as a kid I'd had access to that. Like, I mean, I'm dating myself. You know, I can think I brought up wildlife fact files. Shout out to all those that had those, but that's a very specific age range, I think.
Yeah, I have a friend with a 7-year-old. I'm totally sharing it with him.
Yeah, and like Zoo Books was another one that I had that I loved. A little magazine.
Zoo
that had,
Books.
Yeah, see, Sam's got it. Sam knows.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
Zoo Books.
Zoo Books. And they were like it's a little magazine full of little
like
facts
a monthly subscription type deal.
Yeah. It was like a kid version of National Geographic, kind of. Yeah. And it was adorable. And like, no, Wildlife Fact Files, I don't even know if they still exist. I wonder if that even, it was like, you can get them on Amazon. How about that?
New ones or old ones?
That is so funny. And yeah, it was pretty cool. It had little binders and everything. Very 90s. Yeah. Man, look at it all.
Okay, so like I'm on here right now. I'm going to put in polar bear, see what happens.
Oh, for
the NatureServe Explorer?
Yeah. Oh, it's
something went wrong. Wait, no, I have to do it again. Hold on. I broke it. This is what happens when I do
yeah.
Okay, try again. Okay, did I do this wrong? Search for species and ecosystems.
Oh, yeah, it's just like I just put in hooded merganser and it popped right up.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, it worked this time. I don't know what I see. I broke it the first time.
Yeah. No, it's pretty great. And, so it lists like statuses, where it's found. Like, it's just such a cool site. I know, yeah, I hate to just brag on it, but it's really neat. It's really, really neat,
Wait, there's polar bears here? Not here where I am, but the places I'm looking at? I didn't know that.
Okay, now I'm looking at polar bear. Let's see. Ursus maritimus.
I mean, it's showing
all the way to the bottom of Canada. Yeah, no, it's not.
But maybe it's probably like because it shows the whole province. So like,
yes, it does.
Towards the top.
Yeah, so they probably actually.
But still, I don't think I knew they were there.
Yeah,
because like, cool. This is Eastern Canada, not Western. I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, they're all over. It's kind of a funny thing. Like we actually there are certain species that are endangered in the U.S. that are not endangered in the world, and I didn't know that. I just assumed that if they were endangered here, they were endangered everywhere. And it's a silly little thing, but there's like some species.
That's something I ever even thought of.
Yeah, like there's some species of like bird, for example, that are only found in like Alaska, and they're very small numbers there, but they're like all over Eurasia. Even wolves, like gray wolves, are kind of like that, where there's far, far fewer of them in the U.S. than there are in the world. But still, it doesn't mean they're not worth conserving because they're still part of the ecosystems here. But it is funny because we tend to have our national lens and then project it globally, and that's a very good example of it. You just assume that there's just if it's not here, it's not anywhere, and not always true. But I mean, that's what I love about it, though. Like the NatureServe does have a lot of like really fun facts. Like we can
put in the word scrub. There is 1 million habitats, animals.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah.
Like, it's an endless scroll here.
And I went to like Scrub Jay, which I believe is endangered in Florida. It's like the only place.
Yeah, Scrub Jays are cool. I've seen them.
Yeah, they're super awesome. But yeah, like I would have loved to read this. Like polar bears have a circumpolar distribution in the northern hemisphere, including the eastern Siberian latitude. So on. I would have read that up as a kid, and I probably will later, anyways. Just to just for fun, because I just want to know that.
Wildebeest is my spirit animal, so I have to look that up.
There you go. Well, the NatureServe should be just North American.
It's North America, yeah. So it's not actually coming up. So
yeah.
All right. So I'll be waiting for the global version of this.
Yeah, let's go, Lori. Come on. You're not doing enough right now.
Not in here. Okay.
No, it's only North American animals.
See, this is what happens when I get into software. I try to break it.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point of having software, right? Is for the Lauras of the world to come in.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna put an orchid. It'll probably be like 4 million things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really cool for anybody who's like an orchid person. You can be on this for hours.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. It's absolutely that.
Very cool. Well, we're gonna talk to her about this in the interview, so let's get to it.
All right. Hello and welcome back to EPR. Today we have Lori Scott, the Chief Information Officer for NatureServe, on the show. It's great to have you, Lori.
Thanks, Nick. It's really good to be here.
Oh man, there's so many questions. I don't even know where to start. But we love to dive into people's career paths. So, what inspired you to study mathematics, and how did it kind of get you to where you are now?
Well, Well, I was really undecided in college and undergrad what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I wanted to pick the most, I guess, neutral major I could to keep all my options open. I was just telling someone this story last night. I took one computer science class, and I think had that gone well, I would have gone that route. But in the era that I went to school, taking computer science was daunting. You had to sign up for time on a mainframe, and that often meant staying up really late at night, waiting in line. And it was a multi-day process to debug your software because you had to wait for the processing time. And I was a varsity athlete as well, and I just couldn't give up that much sleep. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to stick with math and keep it simple.
That's too funny, which I don't think anyone's ever said before. I'm going to keep it simple with math. It's a great.
That hurts my brain.
That tells you a little bit about me. I like solving problems. I really do.
Yes. Okay. So how did that help you then transition into the workforce?
Well, I decided I wanted to work in Washington, D.C. out of school, and I moved to the city first and then figured out what to do second. And I also had really mad typing skills. I took typing in high school. So I got a job as an assistant because I could type really fast. And I was working in a group that also did economic analysis, and they saw my math background and they put me to work on actual research projects. And then I went from there into a software development role, even though I said I only took one computer science class, but I had enough to qualify for that. And it just kind of went from there. So I've always been in the technology field other than the stints working in restaurants and as a typing assistant, answering phones and stuff like that. So yeah, I worked for 10 years before I came to my current position at NatureServe in a corporate setting, doing software development, system integration. And then I just decided to look for something with a sort of a different purpose and mission. And that's what led me into the nonprofit world. And I've never looked back.
Yeah, that is so great. And okay, NatureServe as a website, and I'll let you talk a little bit more about what it is and what the mission is in a bit. But it's like the website that I dreamed of as a kid. I would go to I had things called wildlife fact files. I don't know if anybody even knows what those are, but they were in the mail, and you would get a species report, right? And it would tell you every single thing that is to know about certain species. And they had a whole bunch of different ones. And I was really proud of the fact that I knew so many random weird species, right? So imagine my delight years later when I am, tasked with writing a biological resources report, and someone tells me, hey, go to NatureServe and that's where you'll find the information on your species. And I'm like, what's that? And I'm telling you, the first time I used it, it was like the little kid, the 5-year-old in me was like, so that's kind of, I have to forgive myself for that. So, cause it's just, I had to get it out there, but it's such a cool site. What does NatureServe do? Why am I gushing about it so much?
I love that story, first of all, that you got species facts in the mail and just devoured them. So NatureServe, we are a nonprofit, but we're the hub of a network of what are called natural heritage programs. They're in every state. They're also throughout Canada. So we cover geographically the US and Canada, and we document comprehensively which species and ecosystems exist, where they're found, and then we also assess how they're doing. So we really try to triage which species are most imperiled and how do we help them. So we really do focus on the more rare, threatened, and endangered species. NatureServe Explorer is the website where you can go get all those facts. You can search by species, you can search by place, you can also search by status. So you could say, oh, what are the most threatened species where I live? And you can get a list, and then you can dig into each profile. So those species facts profiles you were getting in the mail, we have a whole database of those.
Yeah, I know. And that's the part that was so cool for me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally all I ever wanted as a kid. And it's all right here. And awesome. And it's like I say, it's a really comprehensive list. And like I say, we're going to dive into what your current role is in a bit, but how do you manage all that data?
Well, NatureServe as a nonprofit, we're not that large. We're only 60 to 70 staff, but the power is that we have this whole network. So we've got 1,000 scientists and information technologists that are working across this network, and it's a joint effort. So we collaboratively have developed this database over 50 years. And information poured into these systems at the beginning. We seeded the database with information from museums and herbaria. But over these decades, scientists in our network were out in the field independently gathering surveys in the field of species in their states, in their provinces. So we've developed really the unparalleled resource of field verified occurrences of where species populations are, and they're ranked, they're categorized. So you can say which are the best remaining populations of a given species. And we look at incoming threats, and those inform the status assessments that we do. So yeah, all this information is a real village. It takes a village of scientists bringing all their expertise, biologists from, botany, zoology, ecology, the geospatial engineers, you name it.
Yeah, we had Wesley Knapp on here, right, Nic?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And working
full circle. He talked about that work in depth. So
that's right.
Have the back end part. He told us all about the front end.
That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, for those of you listening, Nic had to pop off of here for some personal things. So I'm going to take over this interview with Lori, and we'll march on without him. So Lori, tell us about some projects that you're working on. I know that there's one that you're pretty excited about.
That's right. So we were just talking about NatureServe Explorer with Nic. We have an add-on or an extension of that we're calling NatureServe Explorer Pro. So NatureServe Explorer, it's free, it's open to anyone, it's anonymous, you don't have to register or anything. But Explorer Pro lets you create an account and log in with just your email address. And then we deliver a whole bunch of additional information, more spatial information, so interactive mapping tools. So you can look in detail at the distribution of one species, or you can search an area and generate a report on which species are documented to occur in that location. So it can provide sort of a screening list of potential species at risk in a location. And we're also incorporating into the tool lots and lots of models of predicted distribution for species. So we've developed thousands of predicted species habitat models that takes all that great data I was just describing from our network, and it kind of extrapolates on that using a bunch of environmental predictor layers, so we can infer where else it's likely for species to occur. And that can really fill in the map of where we haven't been to survey on the ground and give you a really high confidence estimate of where else you might look to find species. So we're really excited about bringing all that data we've been developing and getting it out into the hands of people who need it.
That's awesome. I used to work for Hillsborough County, and we had 40 years of water quality monitoring data, and I was our database person, and it's so much fun to dive in there and pull that information out and make, predictions, inferences. But for this program, for you guys, who do you intend to use it? Is it for laypersons? Is it for other scientists?
It's all of the above. So I see uses for, lay people, really the kid in Nic, if you're really enthusiastic about the place where you are or about a certain species, just getting more information to those folks. A lot of government use, both state and federal. People who are responsible for land management decisions will get access to this information to inform their planning. Environmental consultants that are supporting or private industry that's looking to maybe do a project and wants to get information to inform those project plans on siting decisions. So we serve a lot of audiences. We're kind of a one-stop shop at NatureServe, and from research to environmental impact types of use cases.
That's awesome. And then, so how do you source the data? Where's it coming from?
Yeah. So the location data on species occurrences is primarily coming from the NatureServe network. So those are state natural heritage programs throughout the US, and in Canada, they're known by a different name, conservation data centers, but they're the same kind of thing, and they're responsible in their jurisdictions for being the authority on at-risk species and ecosystems. So we are the hub of that network when we aggregate data from throughout the US and Canada. And we work together with those partners at the state and province level to assess how species are doing. So the source information that is mapped comes from the states and provinces. We sometimes supplement that from other sources. If there's a species that's not well mapped or well documented, we'll look out onto places like iNaturalist or other citizen science applications and other researchers that we know about. So we're always trying to bring good quality data into the system to make it the best we can.
That's awesome. So I know from experience that pulling in data from different sources can be very tricky. And
Yes.
People measuring in different equipment, different measurement units and things like that. And just validating whether it's quality, were they using instruments that are calibrated and, especially the citizen science stuff. What goes into, and I want to ask you these questions because there may be people out there who like math, who like coding, or maybe don't know that they do, but they might be interested in this conversation and go, this sounds fun. I know for me, especially as a woman, and back when I started, I ended up same as you. I typed really fast. I got an assistant to an assistant job. And then a year later, I was doing programming. So I fell into doing that kind of thing and didn't take it as far as you did. I didn't see any space for me in it back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to talk about it so people know that there's space for it. And if you have a mind for it, that, you can do this work and you can even do it in environmental spaces, right? Because there is all this data in the environmental world and someone needs to manage it, massage it, validate it. So what goes into your work during the day? Are you looking at your automations? Are you putting in new programs? What does your day look like? What's exciting? Because I love it. I want to hear what you're actually doing. Because this is what I could, a path I could have been on, and I'm not. So I want to hear.
Sure. So a day in my life, it may not be as exciting as a day in some of my colleagues' lives who are actually touching the data on a day-to-day basis. But my team at NatureServe, we're developing software, we're building technology to support what we do, but also we've built business critical systems that are used by these state agencies to manage this data. So geospatial data, massive databases on all these species and ecosystems. You mentioned at the beginning of that question, the challenges of aggregating dissimilar data. Well, one of the hallmarks of our network is we've developed really rigorous data standards and data methodologies. So we were designed from the beginning. It's really unique, just designed from the beginning as a standards-based data organization. So we created this network and we set them up with a common data model and database tools so that it would make it possible to synthesize and aggregate this information. Most networks like ours, I think, don't have that luxury and they're kind of stitched together after the fact and you're doing a lot of crosswalking and massaging of the data. So we've got that advantage. Now, we do have to worry about that when we are integrating data from outside that network. But, one of the things we have to do is harmonize taxonomy. And what that means is we might call a species by a different name in different places, but there's ways to crosswalk or aggregate data and relate data across synonyms and use other techniques to make sure the quality control is there, that we're really aggregating the data into the right part of the database. So let's see, in terms of the day-to-day then, yes, NatureServe and really our natural heritage programs in the States, if there are people in your audience listening who have that bug to, work on really important data challenges, it would be an excellent career path, I think. It's just so much relevant, impactful work happening in these programs. When jobs come open in the NatureServe network, we advertise them on our website. So there'll be database managers or GIS specialists or other disciplines on the tech side or the data management side. There's also biologists who are doing more of the field work, who know the ins and outs of the plant taxonomy and botany and zoology in their area. So we cover a lot of related disciplines in our field, from the science to the technology. And what I really value is how we all work together. So I've just learned so much working with so many biologists that I didn't study biology in college, but I've picked up a lot in just working day to day with everybody.
Yeah, that was another question I kind of had was like, how did you make a jump from the industry that you were in, which is heavy just engineering, into environmental? Was it accidental? You just applied for a job, or were you looking to make a switch like that?
It was a little bit both, a little accidental. I got to 10-year mark in my previous job where I was doing software development, system integration, and I wanted to make a change. And back in that time frame, so I've been at NatureServe for 23 years. Jobs were advertised in the newspaper classifieds, pretty much. And I saw an ad for a GIS project manager. And I had gotten exposed to GIS mapping software in my last years of the job that I was in. So that was my sort of skill set hook into the job. And it was in a nonprofit, and I thought it just sounded really interesting and really important work, and a nice way to channel the skills I had developed in technology to a different end. And I've just never looked back. It's been so fascinating and eye-opening. And one really interesting, side note is the career I had before. I worked in classified settings. So I worked on technology where I had to have a security clearance, lots of secret stuff behind closed doors. And I was really shocked and amazed in coming to work for NatureServe how much of our data we really have to be secure about our handling of it, because we publish as much as we can, but the most imperiled species, the last few remaining populations, that's sensitive data. So we have to take care to sometimes blur the precise locations of those remaining populations. And we do that in consultation with our partners in the states and provinces. And they set the rules of like what data is appropriate to share publicly and what data should be blurred to respect or protect the potential risk to the species.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I had never really thought of that, but that's important stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's sad that you have to hide that.
It is. You want it all out there because, ultimately there's power in information, and the information is to help safeguard the species. But there are potential risks of persecution or harm to a species that might be collectible. I don't know, think about orchids or cute turtles. And people may not intend to do harm, but they could inadvertently do harm. Or even sometimes species can be overloved, trying to get out and see a bird that you want to add to your life list, or a rare plant that could get trampled if too many people discover it and then walk
right.
over
I
it.
can't find it. Where is it? It's under your feet.
Exactly.
Oh, it's terrible. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing all of that. So you have been doing this work for 23 years with GIS. So I know I worked with GIS for the last 10 or more years, give or take, and it's changed so much. So 20 years ago, how is that looking compared to now?
Yeah, very different indeed. The leaps and bounds of technology evolution over my career, it's been nothing short of amazing. Our humble beginnings, before I got to NatureServe, the system was literally index cards. And it's progressed through punch cards era of computing to databases, relational databases. GIS was added as I was coming in to the organization. So we had paper maps that hung on files in a map room in each state office, and they were topo maps, and they had sticky dots indicating the locations of species that had been found, and they were color coded for plants and animals, and there were details in the margins of the paper maps. When I joined, we were converting to use GIS for the first time. So we've always used Esri GIS software, and there was a PC Arc Info version, and then we had ArcView was the first version that I was integrating into our systems. And then we use ArcGIS Server now, and we're getting ready to make another leap forward into upgrading to like the latest ArcGIS Enterprise with Portal, in a way to like bring all these data together across all the states in a very performant way, and moving into the cloud. So we've gone from server desktop installations to sort of centralized, but on servers we own, to moving now into the cloud. So a lot of evolutions, and just the power of what you can do in online GIS today, which I remember took supercomputers to do not that long ago. I mean, in my career span, which is it's only 2 decades.
I know. Can you imagine the next set of career when someone starts out at this level and 20 years later, what that's going to be like. I can't even imagine, but I bet Esri already knows. Like
AI,
they're so on top of it.
artificial intelligence is coming, man. There's some interesting, I think, things coming that it's almost hard to imagine the power of that, we all have to hope it's going to be a power that's used for good.
Yeah. Well, you touched on like information, knowledge is power, but that power in the wrong hands is still power, right? So it could be scary, but yeah, let's hope it's a good future and some good. But as far as like being a user of the software, it's so exciting.
Yeah. I mean, we hope we could really help users. You can get information overload. There's all this information online, but how do you find what you need? So the power of these tools like Chat GPT style tools to help you quickly navigate an interface like ours and like ask just the normal phrasing of a question. I want to find the plants that are in this kind of soil in this kind of location. You could start to really turn just a human phrasing of a question into a quick database response using tools like that, today takes a lot of programming of an interface and all kinds of query structures to get to the back end of the database. But I'm excited to see where this will go. And also the reduction in time it will take for us to maintain that high quality data. We're really excited to see where that takes us soon, where we could much more quickly assess how species are doing and closer to real time versus spending hours and hours and hours per species, gathering all this information across the internet from the literature, bringing it together, reading it, analyzing it. Computers can do that a lot faster.
Right. So now, do you have advice for other people who might want to get into this work? Do you do mentoring events? Do you go to women in STEM things and, help share people's love for math?
I should be doing more of that. And I look forward to doing more of that as I'm sort of coming to the later part of my career and when I expect I'll have some more time. I have gone to some and I go to conferences, and a lot of the traffic we get if we're exhibiting at a conference is often younger folks early in their career. They might be still students or they're graduating and they're looking to get some knowledge to help, form their career path. So I've definitely done a lot of that informally and some more formally. I guess I would say volunteering, interning, whether it's unpaid or paid. Increasingly, there are paid volunteer and intern opportunities that can help you get exposure to a field without going all in or committing. And it can be a two-way win-win for the prospective employer as well as the person looking to gain that experience and knowledge and just building your network. So joining professional societies, there's NAEP, but there's Society for Conservation GIS is one. That's a really fun and helpful community. And there's resources where the community just answers your questions through a listserv. I don't know if they're still called a listserv, but that, kind of an email gathering of questions and answers, and people just help each other out through these kinds of communities. So if you're in a field or looking to break into a field, I always recommend that because you'll get to know people. You'll get to see exposure to the kinds of places they're working, the challenges they're solving, and see how they're helping each other to solve those challenges.
That's great. All right. Well, now it's time for Field Notes, the part of our show where we talk to our guests about memorable moments. And we encourage our listeners to share their stories using the hashtag Field Notes so that we can read them on a future episode. And your field may look different than other people's fields, but you've done conferences and presentations. Do you have any fun stories of, something that happened doing your work that was unexpected or just a proud moment?
Well, yeah, I know some of my colleagues who are out in the actual field have more interesting funny stories from,
Wes had some wild stories.
Yeah, exactly. And, when your field is the keyboard, it's not quite as exciting. But I would say in terms of proud moments, I keep talking about the network and how we support those partners. But for me, that is the thing I'm most proud about and is most gratifying to me about my job at NatureServe. Working with these partners across the states, it amplifies the impact of what we can do. And so I am really proud about tools we've built that we've been able to, through the power of that network, proliferate across the country much more quickly than they might otherwise have happened. So we've built these tools to automate environmental review and the assessment of what impact a project might have on the ground for rare species. So by building that tool together, we've saved on the cost it takes to build something like that, some, powerful technology, and we can share it over and over, build it once, deploy it many times. So I'm really proud of the unique ways each state makes those tools their own. I mean, in Colorado, for example, they built into this tool an ROI assessment. So it generates the return on investment of protecting a given place on the landscape. So they've brought together these economic analyses to value the land and how much return on that landscape being put into protection or conservation could have into the future. So that was one really unique add-on to the tool that we hadn't thought of. Other states took this tool and made it their wildlife action planning tool, like really brought their state wildlife action plan, which is a requirement for all states to have. The Fish and Wildlife agencies produce these, but they can sit on a shelf as a PDF and they're not really being used. So making it an online interactive tool where you can get into the map and see the impacts on species and habitats of those plans, that was really another gratifying example. So I'm proud of those tools we've built on a shoestring budget and then been able to proliferate them.
That's awesome. And then you guys have won some recognition too, right?
We have, yeah. This software that we've built and evolved over the decades, it's won awards. Before I joined, it won awards, but we applied again and got some recognition from the CIO 100 award, recognized our biodiversity information software. We got a Computerworld technology award, and our state partners have award-winning innovations as well. So that's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And before we end with you here, I got to ask you about this hobby of yours because I'm really surprised. I think this is our 150th episode or interview-ish, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anyone has had this as their big hobby that we talk about is baking.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame that there's not more bakers on your guest list. We'll have to fix that. I love baking. I always have. I learned how to bake from my dad, actually, and who learned from his mom. So I love making pie, especially. Anything baked. Scones is a big one too, but there's something about pie.
What's your favorite pie?
Peach.
Ooh.
Peach pie. And sometimes with a twist, like with raspberries in it.
Sounds delicious.
But I just think there's a reaction of delight I find in people when you bring a homemade pie to them. And maybe they didn't learn how to make their own pie crust and they've only bought the pie crust that's, pre-formed at the grocery store. And I find it's just people can be easily impressed by like that touch of a homemade pie crust. And I'll tell you a secret in my pie crust. I use vodka in it.
What?
Yeah, there's pie dough recipe, all butter, and you use vodka like frozen, ice cold, because you want really ice cold and very little liquids. You want the flour and the butter to come together, but you don't want to melt the butter in any way. So you want to minimally work the dough. And vodka, it dissipates in the baking process, but it's like ice cold and it brings the dough together quickly and effectively. And I find that's my secret to a really good pie crust.
Look at you. This is like your open data source mindset. I'm just going to give it all away.
That's right. Well, I didn't invent it. It's out there in recipes. Just Google vodka all butter pie crust and go for it next time.
Awesome. You want to that sounds great. I'm sure there are baking has not been on the list, but drinks and alcohol definitely has.
There you go.
I'm sure people are going to be
bringing it together.
And you also like to travel, which we love too. So, any favorites?
Oh, well, yes. I've gotten into a ritual of going to Maine the last dozen or so years. So my husband is a distance runner and his cohort of runners here in the Washington, D.C. area where we live, they go up to Maine in the summer to escape the heat and humidity. And we go near Acadia National Park, and there's these wonderful carriage roads that you can run on, soft, forgiving surfaces. And it's just a wonderful place. And I always love visiting national parks. That's a pretty special one for us. And then, I mean, anywhere going towards, I love going into the mountains, or at least semi mountains. I mean, I'm not like a mountain climber by any stretch, but I like hiking in the woods and on terrain that's, getting up in elevation and getting those viewpoints.
Oh yeah.
The vistas. Yeah. That's a favorite.
Very nice. Well, we are just about out of time. This always goes by so fast. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that we didn't get to?
I guess I'll just mention, since we were talking about networking opportunities and career paths, NatureServe has a conference. It's called Biodiversity Without Boundaries. And it's a convening that brings our partners across the US and Canada network together, as well as other partners we work with and federal and state agencies and industry. So we have that next conference coming up in April in Seattle, this April 2024. So that would be something to keep an eye out for. Yeah, stay tuned for a big promotion of the Explorer Pro tool that I mentioned earlier. We'll be launching that at that BWB conference and promoting it online, wherever you look for your environmental and biodiversity data tools.
Nic will be there waiting.
Yes,
be your first user.
Exactly.
Do you need
I'll have to put them on our advanced mailing list. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lori. This has been a lot of fun. And lastly, where can people get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, my LinkedIn profile, I think, will be one option. And also you can just go to natureserve.org. That's our website. And we provide our who's who listing of staff there. So you can find my contact details on the natureserve.org website as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Welcome. Thank you.
That's our show. Thank you, Lori, for joining us today. Please be sure to check us out each and every Friday. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Bye.
See you, everybody.